June 15th, 1944. The 40 men no one wanted. June 15th, 1944. Saipan. 8:44 a.m. The Pacific surf is already red with blood when First Lieutenant Frank Tatchke crouches inside a Higgins boat, its metal hull shuddering as Japanese artillery shells explode in the water ahead. The air smells of cordite, diesel fuel, and salt. Machine gun fire snaps overhead, tearing white streaks through the mist. At 29 years old, Tatchke grips his carbine and stares at a strip of beach that marine planners have already marked as one of the deadliest places on Earth. 300 yards ahead is Saipan's southern shore. Behind Tatchke are 40 Marines packed shoulder to shoulder. None of them were supposed to be here. Every man in the boat is a criminal by Marine Corps standards. Brig inmates, punishment detail veterans, brawlers, thieves, rule breakers. Men the Corps had tried to discipline, confine, or forget. And now, with Japanese shells walking closer, they are about to be sent farther inland than any other American unit on Saipan. The boat rocks violently as another explosion throws water over the bow. Tatchke shouts orders that are nearly lost in the roar of battle. His men do not panic. They watch. They wait. This is not fear. This is calculation. They know the numbers. Saipan is defended by an estimated 30,000 Japanese troops. The island is only 14 miles long and 5 miles wide, but it is packed with concrete pillboxes, artillery positions, underground tunnels, and caves cut deep into volcanic rock. Japanese gunners have registered every beach, every valley, every approach. Marine intelligence predicts casualties could exceed 50%. For scout sniper units in the Pacific, the average casualty rate is even worse. 73%. Tatchke's platoon is not just expected to take losses. They are expected to be erased. This is the Marine Corps' second experiment with elite reconnaissance warfare. 7 months earlier, at the Battle of Tarawa, nearly 1,000 Marines had been killed in just 76 hours. Colonel James Risley of the 6th Marine Regiment watched men die charging unseen machine guns and hidden artillery. Afterward, he made a request that went against Marine tradition. He wanted men who could operate alone, not parade ground soldiers, not perfect Marines. He wanted men who thought independently, ignored rules, and survived violence by instinct. Men who could move quietly, kill silently, and disappear before the enemy understood what was happening. Frank Tatchke knew where to find them. His recruiting criteria were simple. When 2 Marines got into a fight, the winner went to the brig. Tatchke wanted the winner. Over 2 months at Camp Tarawa in Hawaii, he assembled 42 men pulled from punishment details across the 2nd Marine Division. The youngest was 17. The oldest was 34. Some had criminal records before the war. Assault, theft, street fighting. One had been a professional boxer. Another had worked as a bodyguard for a Chicago gangster. The Marine Corps gave them a choice: military prison or combat duty. They chose combat. Training at Camp Tarawa stripped away everything conventional. They learned silent killing with knives and bare hands. How to break a sentry's neck without sound. How to move through jungle without bending a single leaf. How to read Japanese maps and documents. How to call naval gunfire and artillery with encoded transmissions. They trained with M1903 Springfield rifles fitted with 8 power scopes, hitting man-sized targets at 600 yards. They learned to fire bazookas at fortified positions. They studied Japanese defensive doctrine, where machine guns were placed, how caves were connected, how artillery observers operated. They also learned how to steal. In 1944, the Marine Corps was the poorest equipped branch of the American military. Marines used surplus weapons from World War I. Rations were thin. Equipment was outdated. Survival meant improvisation. Tatchke's men became experts. They raided Army supply depots for food, Navy warehouses for gear. They stole trucks, jeeps, radios, and weapons. Other Marines began calling them the 40 Thieves. The name stuck. Now, as the Higgins boat surges forward, training ends and reality begins. At 8:47 a.m., the ramp slams down into chest-deep water. Tatsuki is first out. Bullets crack into the surf around his legs as he wades forward, shouting for his men to move. Mortar rounds land among the assault waves. Men fall in the water. Others collapse on the sand, lifeless before they reach the seawall. The 40 thieves do not stop. They push inland immediately, running past pinned-down units still fighting for the beach. Their orders are brutally simple. Keep moving. Find the Japanese. Radio their positions. Stay alive. By 9:30 a.m., they are 300 yards inland, farther than any other Marine unit on Saipan. Behind them, the invasion grinds forward in blood and smoke. Ahead of them is jungle, silence, and 30,000 enemy soldiers. Night will fall in 9 hours. That is when their real mission begins. Alone in the jungle, the mission reveals itself. The jungle closes around the 40 thieves by mid-morning, swallowing the noise of the beach behind them. The air is thick, wet, and alive with insects. Sweat runs into eyes. Boots sink into loam and tangled roots. Tatsuki orders his men to spread out, 50 yards apart, maintaining visual contact through hand signals developed during training. No shouting. No radios unless necessary. Movement is deliberate, almost slow, but relentless. Standard Marine doctrine demands cohesion. Units advance together, fire teams overlapping, command always in control. Tatsuki ignores it completely. His platoon has authority no other unit on Saipan possesses. They are to make their own decisions, engage only when necessary, and vanish before the enemy can respond. At 10:15 a.m., Sergeant Bill Canupel freezes and raises a clenched fist. Through a break in the vegetation, he spots it, a Japanese concrete pillbox carved into the side of a ridge. Its firing slit points directly into a valley the 2nd Marine Division will advance through later that afternoon. The position is camouflaged perfectly, hidden from aerial photography and invisible from the beach. Inside is a Type 92 heavy machine gun, crewed by 7 men, covering all 3 possible Marine approach routes. If that gun fires, dozens, maybe hundreds, of Marines will die. Tatsuki studies his map. He knows the doctrine. Reconnaissance units are not supposed to engage. They are observers, not attackers. Destroying the pillbox will expose their presence and compromise their mission. He has 30 seconds to decide. The platoon brought a bazooka for exactly this scenario. Private Marvin Strombo crawls into position 80 yards from the pillbox. The rest of the platoon fans out, providing silent security. At 10:32 a.m., Strombo squeezes the trigger. The rocket slams through the firing slit and detonates inside. The pillbox erupts in smoke and flame. 7 Japanese soldiers die instantly. Before the dust settles, the 40 thieves are already gone, slipping deeper into the jungle. When Marine assault units enter the valley 4 hours later, they advance without taking a single machine gun round from that ridge. By noon, the platoon has mapped 17 Japanese positions, 8 machine gun nests, 4 mortar pits, 3 artillery observation posts, 2 ammunition storage areas. Tatsuki transmits coordinates back to regimental headquarters using short, encoded bursts. 20 minutes later, naval destroyers offshore open fire. 5-inch shells scream overhead and hammer the jungle. From concealed positions, the 40 thieves watch fortifications they marked half an hour earlier vanish in explosions. This is how the war is supposed to be fought, Tatsuki realizes. Find the enemy. Kill them without being seen. By early afternoon, the platoon is nearly 2 miles inland. Operating in terrain Marine units will not reach for days. The island is far more fortified than intelligence predicted. In one valley alone, Tatsuki counts over 200 Japanese troops dug into mutually supporting positions. A frontal assault here would cost hundreds of lives. With accurate coordinates, Naval gunfire could erase them in minutes. Then, at 3:40 p.m., everything changes. The platoon crests a low rise and sees it spread out below them under camouflage netting. 37 Japanese Type 97 medium tanks. A full tank battalion, hidden in a grove north of Kanoa. Marine intelligence estimated the Japanese had maybe a dozen tanks on Saipan. They were wrong. These tanks are the single greatest threat to the beachhead. Japanese doctrine calls for massed armor attacks at dusk, when American naval gunfire loses effectiveness. If 37 tanks hit Marine lines after dark, they could roll straight through supply areas, artillery positions, and command posts. Tatsuki radios the coordinates immediately. The response comes back in 8 minutes. Naval gunfire is already committed elsewhere. Aircraft are unavailable. Artillery is still being unloaded from ships. No fire support can hit the tanks for at least 4 hours. By then, it will be dark. Tatsuki looks at his men. 6 bazookas. 6 rockets per launcher. 36 rounds total. 37 tanks. The math is almost perfect. The decision violates every Marine Corps principle. A 40-man unit does not attack a tank battalion. But Tatsuki did not recruit men who followed principles. He recruited men who survived chaos. At 4:15 p.m., he orders the platoon to prepare for an assault. Bazooka teams move into position, forming a semicircle around the staging area, 40 yards apart. The plan is brutally simple. Hit as many tanks as possible in the first 30 seconds, then disappear. But as they settle into firing positions, the jungle suddenly fills with sound. Engines roar to life. All 37 tanks start simultaneously. Crews climb aboard. Officers shout commands. Infantry units form up around the armor. This is not a repositioning. This is an attack forming in real time. Tatsuki checks his watch. 4:28 p.m. sunset is at 7:12. The window for surprise is gone. Attacking now would be suicide. Tatsuki makes a new decision. The 40 thieves will shadow the tank battalion and report its movements. They melt back into the jungle as the Japanese formation begins moving at 5:07 p.m., advancing in 2 columns toward the coast with nearly 1,000 infantry in support. Every 10 minutes, Tatsuki radios updated coordinates. Marine units at the beach respond immediately. Bazookas are distributed. Sherman tanks roll forward. Artillery batteries adjust fire plans. The entire 2nd Marine Division braces for impact. At 6:15 p.m., 1 mile from the beach, the Japanese halt. Officers gather, arguing over maps. After 11 minutes, the formation turns north. Tatsuki watches, puzzled. Then, as the sun drops toward the horizon, he understands. They are not attacking the main beachhead. They are going for the gap between the 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions. And it is barely defended. The tank that almost ended the invasion. June 15, 1944. Saipan. 7:05 p.m. Dusk settles over the jungle as the Japanese tank columns pivot west. The air cools slightly, but the tension tightens. Frank Tatsuki tracks their movement through binoculars, his jaw set. He now sees the entire plan with brutal clarity. The Japanese are aiming for the seam between divisions, the place where American lines are thinnest, command coordination weakest, and nightfall about to erase visibility. He radios the warning immediately. The reply crackles back through static. Acknowledged. But timing is against them. Artillery batteries are mid-resupply. Sherman tanks are refueling. Radio nets are shifting to night frequencies. The gap is held by just 2 Marine companies, roughly 340 men, facing 37 tanks and nearly 1,000 infantry. At 7:23 p.m., the Japanese attack begins. From elevated ground, the 40 thieves watch the battlefield ignite. Bazooka flashes bloom along the Marine line. 3 Japanese tanks erupt and fire almost immediately, but the rest keep rolling. Infantry surge forward behind the armor, screaming as they charge. Marines fall back from their first positions. The line bends. then starts to break. Tatsuki counts tanks in the half-light. 34 still moving. At this rate, the beach will be reached in minutes. Then he sees it. One Japanese tank separates from the main formation. It turns into a narrow ravine and accelerates, moving fast and alone. Its path leads directly toward the 6th Marine Regiment command post. Colonel James Risley is there, coordinating the entire divisional response. Radios, maps, senior officers, all concentrated in one vulnerable position. The tank commander has found the soft spot. If that tank reaches the command post, it can wipe out communications, kill leadership, and paralyze the defense. The entire invasion could unravel in a single blow. Tatsuki estimates the distance. 400 yards. The tank is moving at roughly 15 miles per hour. He has 3 minutes. He grabs Private Herbert Hadges, the best bazooka gunner in the platoon. At Camp Tarawa, Hadges had never missed a shot. But this is not training. The Type 97 tank has 50 millimeters of frontal armor. A frontal hit might bounce. Hadges will need a perfect side angle. They sprint downhill together, slipping on loose soil, lungs burning. Bullets snap overhead as Japanese infantry fire blindly into the darkness. They reach a firing position 30 yards from the tank's projected path at 7:31 p.m. Hadges drops prone and steadies the bazooka. The tank emerges from the ravine seconds later, turret rotating slowly. The commander stands half-exposed in the hatch, scanning with binoculars. The engine idles as the crew checks their map. Hadges waits. The tank rolls closer. 25 yards. 20. 15. Then it stops. At 7:32 p.m., Hadges fires. The rocket slams into the tank's left side, just below the turret ring, the weakest point in the armor. The shaped charge penetrates and detonates inside. All 4 crewmen die instantly. 6 seconds later, the ammunition cooks off. The explosion lights the jungle like daylight. Japanese infantry nearby see the fireball and assume they have hit a major Marine strongpoint. Entire units pivot away from the command post and redirect their assault. Without realizing it, Hadges has just saved the nerve center of the American defense. But the muzzle flash has given away the 40 Thieves' position. Machine gun fire rakes the hillside. Mortar rounds begin falling. Tatsuki knows they have seconds to move. He orders an immediate withdrawal. The platoon dissolves into small teams of 4 and 5, each heading toward prearranged rally points. There is no way to move as a single unit. Jungle, darkness, and enemy patrols make that impossible. Private Marvin Strombo's team lies motionless as a Japanese patrol passes within 10 feet, flashlights sweeping inches above their faces. One soldier stops and stares into the brush for nearly a full minute. Strombo does not breathe. The patrol moves on. By 9 p.m., Tatsuki reaches the primary rally point, a small clearing 600 yards behind Marine lines. He counts heads under red filtered light. 23 men. 17 are missing. They could be dead, captured, or lost somewhere in the jungle. The rally point is too exposed. Japanese patrols are already searching nearby. Tatsuki makes the call. The group will move back to friendly lines and send search teams at first light. At 9:41 p.m., using a prearranged whistle signal and password, the survivors slip back into Marine positions. Nervous sentries nearly fire before recognition comes. The night battle rages on. Japanese armor probes Marine lines until after 3 a.m. By dawn, 27 of the 37 tanks are destroyed. The attack has failed, but barely. Marine casualties are heavy. At first light on June 16th, Tatsuki sends search teams back into the jungle. The first body is found at 7:05 a.m. Private Donald Evans, shot twice in the chest. Dead instantly. Dog tags missing. By 8:20 a.m., 3 more bodies are discovered. These men had been captured alive. Their hands were tied. They were bayonet. By mid-morning, 6 missing Marines are found alive, having evaded patrols and reached Marine lines on their own. 5 more are located hiding in a cave system a mile behind enemy lines, pinned down by Japanese patrols. Tatsuki does not hesitate. He will go get them. The rescue no one was supposed to survive. June 16, 1944. Saipan. 11:47 a.m. Frank Tatsuki leads a 6-man rescue team back into Japanese-controlled jungle under a punishing midday sun. There is no artillery diversion. No air cover. Speed is the only protection. Somewhere ahead, 5 Marines are trapped in a cave system, exhausted, dehydrated, and surrounded by enemy patrols. They reach the caves at 12:33 p.m. The trapped Marines emerge slowly, blinking in the light. One is delirious with malaria, burning at 103 degrees. Another can barely stand, crippled by dysentery. They have spent the night listening to Japanese voices pass within yards, certain every sound would be their last. Tatsuki knows they cannot wait for darkness. The sick men will not survive another 12 hours. They move immediately. At 1:23 p.m., a Japanese patrol appears ahead. 20 soldiers, rifles slung, moving in a standard search formation. There is no time to hide. Tatsuki makes the call. Ambush. The Marines form an L-shaped kill zone in seconds. At the signal, 11 rifles fire at once. The patrol is annihilated in 7 seconds. No survivors. No radios activated. But the sound echoes through the jungle. Japanese shouts rise from multiple directions. Whistles blow. Units begin converging. The Marines run. They make 400 yards before the terrain drops away into a steep ravine. 40 feet down, near vertical sides. Going around will take too long. Tatsuki orders them down. They slide, fall, and half climb into the ravine as bullets begin snapping from above. One Marine is hit in the leg. Another is wounded by grenade fragments. Still, they keep moving. Then the ravine ends. A box canyon. No exit. Japanese soldiers appear on the rim above, firing down. More are descending the sides, closing in. Tatsuki counts at least 40 enemy troops, with more coming. His team has maybe 200 rounds left. 2 men can barely fight. This is where units die. Then Tatsuki sees it. Vegetation growing from the canyon wall, fed by moisture seeping from the rock. He sends 2 men to investigate. Behind the leaves is a crack, barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through. It leads upward. One by one, the Marines force themselves into the fissure, dragging packs behind them, pushing the sick men first. Inside, it is pitch black. They climb by touch, stones scraping skin, hearts hammering as Japanese voices echo below. At 2:07 p.m., they emerge on the far side of the ridge. The Japanese are still searching the box canyon. The Marines sprint the final 600 yards and reach friendly lines at 2:23 p.m. All 11 make it back alive. By nightfall, 34 members of the 40 thieves are accounted for. 3 remain missing. They are listed as killed in action. In 48 hours, the platoon has lost 6 men killed, 3 missing. A 22% casualty rate. And the mission is not over. At 5:30 a.m. on June 17th, the 40 thieves move out again, deeper inland than any American unit has yet gone. Their objective is a ridge system believed to hide Japanese artillery that has been shelling Marine positions for 2 days. By 8:15 a.m., they reach it. Cave entrances dot the ridge. Tunnels connect them. Inside are artillery pieces that fire, relocate, and vanish before counterfire arrives. Corporal Roscoe Mullins and Private Marvin Strombo volunteer to go inside. They crawl into darkness. They find a 105mm howitzer. Then another. And another. Ammunition stores. Command posts. Sleeping quarters for dozens of Japanese soldiers. At 11:03 a.m., a Japanese patrol passes within 3 feet of their hiding place. They do not move. They escape with maps that will change how the ridge is attacked. At 12:15 p.m., Tatsuki turns the Plato toward a new objective. Garapan, Saipan's administrative capital. and he is about to order something that sounds insane even to his own men. Riding through the enemy's capital. June 17, 1944. Saipan. 4:05 p.m. From the jungle edge, Frank Tatsky studies the ruins of Garapan. Smoke drifts lazily from shattered buildings. Rubble fills the streets. What had once been the administrative heart of Saipan is now a broken city, battered by naval gunfire and airstrikes. Yet it is not abandoned. Through binoculars, Tatsky counts Japanese soldiers moving openly through the streets, using the town as a staging area for counterattacks rather than a fixed defensive line. Marine commanders need to know how Garapan is being used. Assaulting a fortified town is one kind of battle. Assaulting a mobile concentration of troops is another entirely. Tatsky decides to find out the only way possible. He selects 4 men: Roscoe Mullins, Marvin Strombo, Corporal Arazi, Private Don Evans. 5 men total, including himself. They strip down to essentials: rifles, sidearms, knives, no grenades, no extra gear that might rattle or reflect light. At 4:23 p.m., they move. They slip into Garapan through back streets and shadows, weaving through collapsed walls and burned-out structures. Japanese soldiers are everywhere, 200 visible at least, with more hidden in the ruins. The Americans move slowly, counting, memorizing, mapping. Then, at 5:08 p.m., Strombo spots something unexpected. 5 bicycles leaning against a damaged building. Japanese military bicycles, the kind used by officers and messengers. The idea is instantaneous. 5 bicycles, 5 Marines. Tatsky does not hesitate. At 5:15 p.m., 5 American Marines mount Japanese bicycles and ride straight into the center of Garapan. They do not hide. They do not rush. They ride casually, like soldiers moving between positions. It works. Japanese troops glance at them and look away. Some wave. Others shout greetings in Japanese. The Marines nod back, expressionless, pretending to understand. For 43 minutes, they ride through the enemy capital, mapping positions, counting units, identifying supply dumps, and assembly areas. They pass within yards of Japanese officers who never suspect a thing. At 5:58 p.m., they exit the town and disappear into the jungle, abandoning the bicycles a mile later. By 7:32 p.m., the 40 thieves are back behind Marine lines. They have been behind enemy lines for 14 continuous hours, deeper than any American unit on Saipan. The intelligence they bring back reshapes Marine plans for the assault on Garapan and the interior. For the next 3 weeks, the 40 thieves do it again and again. They map enemy positions, call in artillery, ambush patrols, steal food and water from Japanese supply dumps. They watch civilians forced toward cliffs rather than surrender. They see wounded Marines used as bait for ambushes. They suffer malaria, dysentery, heat exhaustion. Men lose 30 to 40 pounds. By July 9th, when Saipan is declared secure, 12 of the original 40 are dead. 9 more are wounded. Despite everything, their casualty rate is lower than the scout sniper average. Marine commanders later estimate their work reduced overall casualties by at least 15%, possibly 2,000 lives saved. After the war, the men scatter back into civilian life, carrying what they saw with them. There is no language yet for what they are experiencing. No treatment. No recognition. Frank Tatsky becomes mayor of Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. He never talks about Saipan. His son only discovers the story after finding his foot locker decades later. The Marine Corps quietly absorbs the lesson. Small units. Deep reconnaissance. Independent command. Silent killing. Intelligence first, firepower second. The blueprint for modern special operations is born. 40 men pulled from Briggs and punishment details changed how America fights wars. They were never criminals. They were pioneers.